malgastan su tiempo y dinero en estrategias basadas en la compra de enlaces y otras técnicas obsoletas de crecimiento de autoridad. Los antiguos procedimientos de link building ya no dan resultado. Link Affinity identifica potenciales colaboraciones que aporten la autoridad temática necesaria para conseguir un impacto positivo en el posicionamiento en buscadores, consiguiendo una construcción de marca a través de relaciones orgánicas. Hoy en día, para que los buscadores te consideren una autoridad en tu temática, debes convertirte en una autoridad temática, y esa es la misión de Link Affinity. Con un avanzado sistema de procesamiento del lenguaje natural, calcula la afinidad semántica rastreando hasta 10.000 URLs de cada prospecto y analizando su contenido, etiquetado y términos para los que posicionan. Link Affinity realiza un análisis automatizado de tu perfil de enlaces y con su algoritmo Naturalness busca el equilibrio entre afinidad semántica, autoridad y riesgo por penalizaciones. Link Affinity evalúa los links de spam tal y como lo hace Google, evitando reportes negativos por recibir spam automático. Ahorrarás cientos de horas gracias a las automatizaciones semánticas. Deja que la IA trabaje por ti. Link Affinity incluye exigentes filtros de calidad que no te harán perder el tiempo analizando decenas de sitios manualmente. Se integra con herramientas como Ahrefs, SEMrush, Majestic SEO o Sistrix. Con el sistema de gestión integral de Link Affinity podrás planificar tu campaña, organizar tus tareas y llegar a los medios de comunicación. Si lo deseas, un equipo humano se comunica exclusivamente por ti, transmitiendo tu solicitud de colaboración a los medios. Gracias a la tecnología de GPT y la experiencia de tus clientes, puedes apoyar temáticas de actualidad y proponerlas a todo tipo de generadores de contenido. Recibe propuestas de colaboración de medios que están buscando perfiles con experiencia. Link Affinity permite a periodistas conectarse con expertos en temas relevantes para sus reportajes. Participa en entrevistas, aporta datos de interés o colabora en artículos. Podrás generar reportes personalizados con los esfuerzos realizados para tus clientes. Link Affinity cambia la forma de entender y ejecutar las campañas de PR digital, link building ético y brand building. Por su innovación y cambio de paradigma, Link Affinity ha obtenido el galardón como mejor herramienta de PR y varias nominaciones como mejor innovación de software. Miles de clientes han probado nuestro método y han comprobado cómo optimizar al máximo sus esfuerzos, aumentando la productividad y mejorando a la vez los resultados que dan a sus clientes. Con nuestro programa para agencias de partner certificado, además, tendrás a todos tus clientes en un solo panel con reportes personalizados y mucho más. Pide ahora tu demostración gratuita en linkaffinity.io.
Wow, haven't seen you for a long time. Let's have a round of applause for Alfonso Moure. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming here today. It's always very difficult to be the first speaker, and I don't know how many of you are very tired because you traveled a long way, maybe you haven't had a lot of sleep. First, I would like to give my thanks to SECO. The last time I was here was in 2019, so that was quite a few years ago, and I was using my own computer. Well, I always like to use my own computer, and you'll see why. As you can see, I'm going to talk about AI and programming interface, and I'm going to specifically talk about this tool that I use, but first I want to say a few words about myself. I was here in 2019, and those of you who were here that year, perhaps you will remember me with having longer hair. I was talking about cloud topics, queries, SEO data, and well, this time I look much more serious. I have short hair. And for those of you who don't know me, you can call me Mo. It stands for Alfonso Moure. And online I use the name Ghost Mo. I'm a SEO technician. I am a WPO. I also work with Python. And I think it's a very good thing I can speak first, because it's going to get hotter, and once the temperature is over 25 degrees, I stop functioning. So at the moment, I'm still fine. I'm going to tell you about artificial intelligence as interface for programming. So this is not the same as programming AI. When I was invited here, I decided I would prepare much in advance. But the thing is that life happens, things happen, and you get late, and then suddenly you realize that a lot of other people will also talk about artificial intelligence. So I realized I was no longer as original. So I decided to change the focus a bit. So what are we going to talk about? Yet again about artificial intelligence. Well, we're not going to talk about models or clustering or embeddings, anything like that. Instead, I'm going to talk about an interface. What is an interface? I like to look at definitions on Wikipedia rather than the Spanish Language Academy. Interface is an interaction between different systems, different platforms. So it could be the different computers connecting to Wi-Fi, 5G. So in programming, there are more things that we can call interfaces. Why do I decide to talk about this topic? One, because it's very fashionable. And because when I come here and when we talk about this kind of topics in my team, a lot of people ask me if it's important to know how to program. If you want to be a technical SEO, if on your daily work, if you need to actually know how to program. And I tell them that, well, no, not really. Because this is not your work, it's my work, I can do that. But if they ask me, they can also ask me what they need to, what technologies they need to know, what they need to learn, and I tell them, well, I don't know. Something I always tell them is there is no such things as free lunches. What does it mean? Well, it means that there's no perfect solution to every single problem. Instead, you have to look for something that works for exactly what you are doing. So there are a lot of people talking about ChatGPT these days. It seems to be like the solution to everything, something that's going to change the world. If you want to, however, write like the Spanish writer Lorca, it's not going to help you. But if you want to program, maybe it will help you. So there are different tools for different things. So here that I mentioned ChatGPT, I also included a screenshot for ChatGPT. And this is a good introduction for the topic I'm going to talk about. ChatGPT predicts what you are going to want to read. How does it do it? You enter a prompt, which is the question or the text that you type in, and then using programmation, it decides what is going to come out from the other side. If you've tried ChatGPT, which you probably have, you can see that it is also related to previous queries that you have made, so it needs the context and it uses it. But later I'll talk more about this topic. It's topics that you have already used on ChatGPT, but if you use it as a tool to help you program, the problem is it doesn't know what you have already programmed before, it doesn't know what platforms you used in the past. You cannot have, you can have this metaphysical explanation to ChatGPT explaining everything you have ever done in the past, but it's not very practical. So, as you know, computers work in zeros and ones. They don't actually understand anything. So how does this magic work? This is through interpretation. A computer or processor that you have in your mobile phone, in your tablet, interprets the binary code and decides that this is what is an operation, what is data, and then it can reach A or B, which is the outcome, the sum of what you entered. So this is the basic way it works. What happens is when we program, we don't program in A's and B's, but we use higher level programming languages such as Python. I put some Python code here, 2 plus 3 multiplied by 5. Those of you who know how to program, you'll know that this is correct. Like I have added this code. This is how I would do it if I want the sum, if I want the outcome. But the problem is the computer doesn't understand what it wants you to do. So you have to interpret it to the computer. So what Python does, it interprets it to C++ for itself. It happens very quickly. Well, it's also very versatile. And of course, I'm oversimplifying things now if I explain things like that, but basically that's how it works. And then it's possible to have these more complicated codes as well. These codes here that you can see in the bottom. So that's how it works. This is called the compilation system. So we have the translator that goes from higher to lower level, and it becomes more and more exact but less explicit. So when we read the information ourselves, it's more difficult for us to understand it, as you can see on that slide I just showed you. At the top you can understand it better, but at the bottom we can understand it very poorly, but the computer understands it better. So from more to less legible, but from more complicated. So we also have another level here. If we add another level of natural language, of human language, what happens then? Human language is ambiguous, it's imprecise. As I said, this is what happens in translation. And there is also a cultural context to take into account. So if we say anything, if we say any word, then if we understand the same language, we understand it. But we also have interpreters, they are interpreting what we are saying. So we need a common language to understand what's being said. So if we add this extra language, it seems that ChatGPT can help us. It seems that it does the same as I did in the past. You can see the code here, but there is also an explanation. Of course, there are people who think that if we have ChatGPT, I don't need to be a programmer, and we don't need programmers anymore. But this is not true. You need to know what the platform is that you're using, how to execute entries. So yes, you still need a programmer. This kind of keyboard, it actually is sold, so yes, but this is not enough, as you can see. And it's not enough to copy and paste. If we give ChatGPT 3 very clear tasks, then we can hope that it will actually reach a result. Let me now introduce a friend of mine. It's GitHub Copilot. Does anybody use it? Okay, a few people do. This is a tool. I don't know if you can see very well this text in the programming screen, but the green blocks are the ones that I introduced, the comments that I write in Python. I write what I want, sum 3 and 2, and multiply the result by 5. Save the result in a variable called result. So I explain what I want, and it generates the code that I need. This is interactive. How does it work? GitHub Copilot is by OpenAI, so it's also the owner of ChatGPT. But it also understands different languages, different human languages. But GitHub is a repository of code, so people who program, they store their code there, they cooperate with other programmers and so on. So it's possible to use lots and lots of different programming languages on GitHub, amongst them Python and others. Here I want to show you something else. So here we have Visual Studio Code. This is a Microsoft programming program, and it's very useful. I really like to use it. And here, don't worry, I just have some notes for myself here. So first, I'll ask it to download a sitemap. A very simple code to take a sitemap from a website, to use the URLs for the product. So a very basic scheme. So I just explain what I want it to do. Download sitemap from the following URL. As you can see, I even made a typo here, but it's not a problem. And build a list with them. So everything that is in green, it's auto-completed. And I really like it. Okay, this is good. So it's importing things to Python. For those of you who program on Python, you might say that this is a bit disorganized, but, well, that's what we have. As you can see, it's creating code directly here in tabular, and you have a function here directly. The function is to download the sitemap. So it's all very clear. Now you want to filter the URLs of the products. So we need to have another expression. Let me type in something else. So another task. Filter the list of URLs using a regex for product paths containing the word product. So it's filtering sitemap, and it already knows what I'm talking about. Because I've put the comment there and I've mentioned this before. So now I ask it to print the list of URLs. It's creating the function here. And we have the main function here. I sometimes say, well, this is not actually necessary, but in programming you just know that there are different ways of doing things, but that's just one of the options. So I have entered some comments. Here we have URLs from products, and it's printing them out. So let's have a look. It's saying a lot of things, and at the bottom we have the output of the program, and this is based on what I have explained, not what I have given as tasks. So let's take the next step. Let's go here, and let's write what else we wanted to do. So let's write function to extract JSON LD from a URL. And it's creating the tabular, and it's finished. So this is just extracted like that. And we can now go here. It's important to have these spaces here as well. Just write it here, extract JSON from the first URL in the list. And this is how it goes. And here we have it. The message I want to give you is that you don't need to use it like ChatGPT to be able to program. I suggest that you try a tool like that, which is more interactive, more conversation-based. And here I also want to show you the actual output that we have once it's the programming is finished. So later I will also give you the code. It's free, so you can extract this the data. I wanted to show you another thing. Whilst you're getting your balls ready, please don't throw them at my computer. You can also ask me questions if you want later, but so integrating chat into what you're doing, this is also a great advantage. You can ask Copilot the question directly, but don't use it as a localized context. Use your code as the context. So use the context of the same project. So you can ask, for example, how can I improve this function? How can I make this part quicker? How can I improve the performance of the downloading? So there are options. And just the other day, I was writing this code and about using the interface. I think a very good thing you can do is ask questions from API. So you can call API directly. For example, ask what is the weather in La Manga today, and it can tell you.